Good morning, everyone. It's a little more chilly and there's a little bit of a breeze, which in many ways I think is a sign of what's to come. Tomorrow is supposed to pick up with the wind a little bit, and the day after that there's a chance of rain in the forecast. And so many of the leaves here, I don't think they're far enough along the way where they're going to get blown off by the wind. But certainly with the wind comes clouds, and so the light won't be quite as good. And so this morning I'm making my way to a subject I photographed last year. I just wasn't quite satisfied with the composition. But I stood and stared at it for a while yesterday, and I think I came up with a solution. It's gonna have a really long-lasting glow, so I'm making my way over there and we'll see if I can find an effective solution for this subject this year. But hopefully the wind will stay nice and calm. While making my way back to my truck, I was distracted by a very interesting scene that I've walked past many times before, and I've always thought it would be interesting to photograph, but it just seemed like the conditions weren't quite right. But this time, it's pretty good. So it's this beautiful, dead, fallen ponderosa pine, and then there's box elder trees back behind it. And then back in the distance is this wall with some really strong reflected light. So I set up a horizontal composition and exposed a single sheet of Provia on that. So That's 2 sheets of film today. But now, it's time to head back to my truck, grab some lunch, and the conditions are still fantastic today. Blue skies, the wind has settled down, and so I think I'm gonna spend a little time wandering and kill some time and take in the status of fall color, because all these maples here, they were green when I got here, and they're turning color pretty fast. And so I got a photo that's possible in the kind of mid-late afternoon, and until then I'm just going to wander around a little bit and see how things have changed in the past few days and get a better feeling for the conditions this year. But it feels pretty awesome to expose some film this morning. So it is right around 1 o'clock, and I had hiked back to my truck, made myself some lunch, and then I hiked over to another location that I found the other day where it's this really cool looking maple tree. It's got some reds and some oranges. And I found that perhaps a frame filling shot of that tree might be kind of nice. Also a little bit of a wider shot of the tree within the wash could be pretty good too. But right now, the skies are getting to be a tiny bit cloudy. There's some high clouds streaming in from the west. And the thing about reflected light is that any small amount of clouds, it can even be a contrail from a plane, but it can snuff out the light. And so we'll see what happens here. It could be just one little band that goes over, then blue sky again, or it could be, a lot more clouds coming in. But my goal is to wait until the tree falls in the shadow, photograph it in reflected light, and we'll see how that works. But beyond that, I also have a possible evening photo as well, which would rely on the same conditions. But in any case, feels pretty good to expose some film, and we'll see what happens this afternoon. Well, there was a band of high clouds that came through and snuffed out the light for a little while. And then it started getting bright again and there's blue sky, but now there's a even thicker band of high clouds that's moving through, and this one has a bit more texture to it. And also the wind is picking up a little bit. And so my window of light is going to be going away pretty soon. So the photo setup behind me is not going to happen today, but that's just fine. It's actually been nice just to relax a little bit and to just enjoy the scenery. The other thing I was thinking is if there was enough wind, perhaps doing an exposure when the leaves are blown around quite a bit in the wind, but there's been little bits of wind, but my shutter speeds really aren't long enough so that this sort of movement right here would look good. It would just look like a mistake. I'd really need to look very intentional and have like a, second long exposure when things are really moving around, but it's been fairly mild. But I'm gonna get things packed up. I'm gonna head back to my truck, enjoy a second lunch perhaps, and a nice cup of tea. And then we're gonna see what's gonna happen. I might just wander a little bit for the rest of the day. After exposing a couple sheets of film, that's a lot for one day. 2 different subjects. So I think now it's time just to scout around a little bit, cover some ground, and come up with a plan for the days to come, because there's going to be a lot more of this. Clouds, wind, and even a little bit of rain. But now it's time to get my camera packed up. Well, as you can see, the sun is back, but there's still some clouds there. But it's probably good that I packed up my camera from the last subject, because that band of clouds lasted all the way through my window of light. So I wouldn't have been able to shoot that one anyways. But I've come to my evening location, which you'll see back behind me here. I got my camera set up, and I got this tree with the mud down there, and you might recognize this from the other day. Unfortunately, someone has walked through the dried mud there, so I have to be a little more creative with my composition in order to avoid that, but I can't avoid that. But here's the trickiest part. With this composition, so I'll try to get up this without falling here. But with this composition, we have the tree branches here that stick pretty close to the camera, and then they recede far back. But I also want to keep the mud in focus. And so I did some trickery with the plane of focus where I have a little bit of reverse front tilt to get a little bit of the mud, as well as the branches, a little bit of swing. And I think I came up with a compromise that'll be good enough. It's not going to be able to get everything in focus. It probably won't even be able to get the sort of the reddish branch there in the foreground in focus. But sometimes having out of focus foreground elements isn't so bad. But now it's just a matter of waiting to see if the conditions are right. There's a lot of blue sky, a little bit of clouds, but I just need to have this drop into shadow while having the slope behind me still in the sun, which is going to happen in maybe an hour and a half or so. But we'll see what happens. Well, as is often the case, the light was moving rather quickly, and I didn't have the opportunity to get the video camera going as I was making the exposure. You can see the light has faded a little bit here as the sun is starting to retreat up the hillside back behind me there. But I did expose 2 sheets of Provia 100F, one at f/45 and then the other one at f/64, because it is a very challenging scene for depth of field. But right now the skies are mostly clear. The wind is absolutely calm. So after the clouds that swept through around 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, made it seem as though it was just going to be overcast for quite a while. It's quite nice to have the sun pop out and give the opportunity to expose a couple more sheets of film today. But now it's time to get things packed up, head back to camp. I have 2 days worth of film to unload, and I got to reload those film holders. And I haven't checked the weather forecast specifically for tomorrow as of today. I looked at it a couple days ago, but I would imagine there's going to be some wind and some clouds on the way. But it feels great to expose some film, and now it's time for dinner.
It's the calm days in Zion I enjoy most. The days with blue sky and ample reflected light. Especially when one knows a change in the weather is on the way. Although I'm quite satisfied with one of my photos that day, it's worth noting that all of them were adversely affected by expired film. It wasn't much of a loss for the first scene, as I'm still unsatisfied with this composition. Perhaps it's not meant to be. And although I'm satisfied with the second composition, the shadow regions of this photo were negatively impacted by the expired film, giving them an awkward and mushy appearance. It's the photo of the fallen ponderosa I like most, and with so much bright detail in this photo, the effect of the expired film is greatly minimized. I love the visual contrast between the fallen ponderosa and the lively box elders that surround it. Thanks as always for watching, and we'll see you around next time.
If you enjoy this ad-free and clickbait-free content and want to help me live my dream, a voluntary contribution of just $24 a year helps keep my gas tank full and my film freezer stocked. For more information on how to support me and my work, please visit the donation section of my website at benhorne.com/donate. I also have prints in my portfolio box set available on my website. You can find a direct link down below in the show notes. Thanks in advance for your support.